Good afternoon, everyone. I can't actually see any of your faces at the moment because I am sharing my screen, but hopefully I can stop sharing in a little bit and get to see who's joined us on the call and for this session. So really, yeah, thank you so much for coming along to participate in the Helena and I's workshop. Which, as you can see from the title, is working with African families, a toolkit for social workers and the social care workforce. So I'll just begin really with an introduction from myself about who I am and what Iris does, and then I will pass over to Helena just to give you a little bit of background about the project. But this is going to be quite an interactive session, so really want to hear your thoughts and views. And yeah, we'll be able to stop sharing. I'll be able to stop sharing my screen so I can see some of you. But yeah, really looking for a chatty, discussion-based session. So if you like to talk, you've come to the right place. But really nice to kind of meet everybody. My name's Hannah Martin. I'm a development lead with Iris. I'm not sure if you are familiar with Iris, but our logo is on screen just now, just next to Passion for Fusion. And we're an organisation that work across the social work and social care sector, working with teams and organisations of all different kinds on, I suppose you would call it kind of innovation-based projects. So I think when we say innovation, we can often think like Google or, um, technology, apps, big change. Actually, a lot of what we do is work on projects that are perhaps new to a team, new to sector, maybe the scale of the projects they want to work on is different. And we last year put a call out for partners to work with us on a few different key areas. And one of those was day-to-day dignity. So how dignity is provided to people by social workers and the social care workforce through their everyday practice. And that's how we came to work with Passion for Fusion. And it's been a really exciting, well, how many months now? I'm rubbish at maths. 8 months? Lots of activity packed into that time. My colleague Josie and I, Josie couldn't be here today, but we've worked, yeah, really closely with Helena and team over that time to start to create a toolkit for the workforce. So that's a kind of small background, I guess, about myself and what Iris does. But I'm going to pass over to share a little bit more about the background to this project in particular, and why we came to think about making a toolkit to support the workforce, to support their work with families from the African diaspora. And there's no better person to do that than my colleague Helena, who works for Passion for Fusion, and as I said, who approached us through the expression of interest last year to work with us on this project together. Let me just check that is what we're doing. Oh, yes, perfect. Hopefully you've seen the next slide. I have a really great picture here on screen of Helena at the youth. I know what it is, but I'm going to get it wrong. The Youth Worker Awards, which Helena was a winner of. So yeah, I will pass over to you. Excuse me, to you, Helena, just to give a little bit of introduction about yourself, what Passion for Fusion does, and kind of where this work has originated.
Thank you so much, Hannah. And thanks everybody for coming to our workshop. My name is Helena, as Hannah has said. I am one of the founders and I'm the project director of Passion for Fusion. Passion for Fusion is a Black-led organization, and we work mainly with Black and Brown children and young people within the Edinburgh and Lothians. And we support them with a lot of integration work. We started this piece of work again because most of us have lived experience of being migrants in Scotland and not understanding systems or not understanding the way things work. So we just thought it's about time we created our own solutions to problems that or challenges that we were facing. And children, most of us are parents again, and children are a big part of our community and how we support them. We do a lot of work around sports and creative arts. We use these tools because they're non-threatening. for some of you who may or may have not worked with Black families, you will find that there's a lot of mistrust of systems, especially because, again, it's just a lack of understanding, either from our part or from people that we work with. So we just thought we will create solutions, and part of the solution is this piece of work that we have joined up with Iris to do. So over in the pandemic, we got a lot of calls from parents, just as the lockdown was being released. A lot of calls from African parents saying they've taken my children. Social work have taken my children, and they had no understanding of, why, or even if they did, it was blasé to them. Why would you come and take my children? I'm doing the best that I can, or I'm parenting from a place that I know parenting is. So most of these were because of physical chastisement, and that was the trigger for child protection cases. So when we try to support families, half the time it was almost like we were invisible. We just had to push through to say, look, we're advocating for these families. And what we found is that there was a huge lack of understanding of culture within social services. So, for example, one locality that we'd spoken to and asked them, look, if you have 5 African families that you have taken children because of physical chastisement, maybe it's a good time to ask the question, why? Why is it that this group of people are disciplining their children through physical chastisement? So we started educating social workers about culture, and it's been quite eye-opening to understand, or to interact with different social workers. For example, we will go to hearing meetings, and that hearing table is quite intimidating for families. You're sitting there by yourself, and it almost feels, it's not the case, but it almost feels like everybody's against you, because of the finger pointing and the pointing out of all the things you're not doing right, rather than the things you're doing well. So we thought it would be good to partner with the Promise Scotland and really support the workforce when it comes to the cultural gaps. And this morning I attended the plenary session, and I had the story of Katrina, and it touched me in so many ways. And we were talking earlier to say sometimes we're planting seeds, we're not growing the whole tree. So we're all an important puzzle in that life of the child. So I'm going to read a case study, if that's okay. If I've got time, Hannah, I'm just going to quickly read a case study just to give you an understanding of what could happen, or what could the typical type of family that we work with. So Nadia is a 6-year-old Black girl whose parents recently immigrated to Scotland from Africa. They come from a culture with different parenting styles than what is common in Scotland. They believe in strict discipline, physical punishment, and that children should be seen and not heard. Nadia's parents are struggling to adapt to the new culture and language, and are unaware of the laws and systems in place to protect children in Scotland. One day at school, Nadia, through conversation with the teacher, says that her mom beats her when she does something wrong at home. The teacher probes further and reports the case to social services as a welfare concern. Social services investigate the matter and conclude that Nadia has been subjected to physical abuse and is taken into the care system. Mom is very confused because where she comes from, physical chastisement is a form of discipline. Mom gets really annoyed because she genuinely believes that she is doing good for her children. So mom's not given clear information of the processes and procedures, and so she is advised by her community members that it is illegal and that she should deny that she beats her children, or they will never come home again. Mom develops mistrust and suspicion and decides to lie to social workers because that if she denies this, she will get her children back. Nadia is then taken into the care system and placed with white foster carers. while the investigation is ongoing. She doesn't like the foods, but she likes the fact that they have many toys and they buy her nice things that she wasn't getting these at home. But still, Nadia is very confused as there is a huge culture difference between what happens at the foster carers and what should happen at home. Nadia is slowly losing her cultural identity because she's expected to eat suddenly to eat different food and behave a certain way. Her parents, on the other hand, they feel helpless, ashamed, and misunderstood, and they don't fully comprehend the laws and social norms in Scotland. This is where Passion for Fusion comes in to support Nadia's parents, but also to support the social worker and the wider professional groups to bridge the cultural gaps and understanding. With many cases like this, especially after the pandemic, we started supporting parents as their advocates, talking to social workers and explaining certain norms. There was an initial pushback. One team manager actually says to me, child protection is child protection regardless the color of your skin. To hear professionals that are inflexible and have no willingness to learn is why we're joining forces with the promise to support both the community to understand parenting in this jurisdiction, but especially also to support the workforce to be able to understand culture and make informed decisions for children in the care system. And I hope you join us on this journey where every child, including Black and Brown children from migrant and refugee families, grow up loved, safe, and respected. Thank you. Thanks, Hannah. Over to you.
Thank you so much. That was great. That was really such a great summary of just all the work that you do. And yeah, I think that case study's just been so helpful to not just articulate the how what it's like from the passion for fusion side, sorry, and what you see, but also just how and as we talked about and as you mentioned, there's a whole system that's part um of supporting children and families. And I think part of what we're trying to do with this toolkit is at least influence one part of that system, at least be able to support social workers to have improved kind of interactions. Thank you so much. I'm just going to take us through another few slides, then I'll stop sharing my screen. And if there's any questions or anything, for Helena, we can go into that before we go to the exercises. Um, so I think just to underline what you've shared there in the case study, also Passion for Fusion carried out research with Mildred and Zaki, who we've worked with on this project as well. And there's I think some pictures of them coming up so you can see them involved. But some of the quotes on screen I think just really bring again another kind of example as the same as those that was shared in the case study. And just touching on that idea that people feel their culture is perhaps not understood, feeling that real mistrust between systems and social workers and families, maybe not being able to believe that social workers really have best interests at heart, given, maybe things being cancelled at short notice or the way that they're being interacted with. And again, the one at the bottom about foster carers and how foster care placement can be quite difficult for children when they're having to go to families that don't share their cultural background or heritage. So that's just from the family's perspective. The research also talks about the workforce perspectives. So that lack of awareness by by both the people that are being but by both the families who are receiving social work support, but then also about agencies and social workers not having that cultural understanding. And I think what's so kind of hopeful, I guess, about this toolkit is that it's looking to step directly into that gap. And I think, Helena, one thing that you've always brought and always said about this piece of work is that we want it to be used and we want it to feel positive, and then it's like building on what people can do. And I think again that second quote there just really touching on the idea that if people and families are fearful, like we also heard in the case study, it's going to make it really challenging for social workers and families to have, to have that kind of open communication. And again, just that bottom point, just highlighting that there's a whole system around this. The fact that there are perhaps challenges with placing children in a foster family that share their cultural background. That's not something this toolkit can tackle, but I think it's really great to have that in our minds, have the other kind of system level issues, I guess, in our minds when we think about what this toolkit can help us to do. Um, so I'll share a little bit about what we've done so far, and then I'll stop sharing my screen and we can take any questions before we go into the activities. But I thought maybe I would have Mildred and Zaki in these photos, but I don't. But this is just to showcase some of the work that we've done up to this point. So as I said, we've been working together for quite some time, and it kind of began with looking at the research that Passion for Fusion have already done, and obviously all the kind of knowledge and expertise that they bring to the subject. We have organised, we'd organised one co-production day for the toolkit, which followed the pictures on screen, which was a space where we shared, where Passion for Fusion, sorry, led on their work and shared how they've been conducting their research and what they've found. And we then worked with a group of practitioners to start to build and firm up the toolkit. So everything that we've done, the tools that we're going to have a look at later, have been co-produced with social workers. We've heard from social workers at the event, for example, that's on screen, and we were able to hear some really positive examples, I guess, of practice and how social workers can build those positive links with families. So where we're at now is just shaping up and building that tool, and we would like your help to do that with some of the activities that we have in the next section. But I'm just going to stop sharing for the moment and just see, does anybody have any kind of questions or thoughts or anything at this stage? Hopefully you can see this. So we begin with one of the first tools is a self-evaluation tool. So the kind of blurb we have for this is to use the tool to reflect on your understanding of your own culture and to think about how you approach cultures that are not your own. Being aware of how your culture influences your needs, wants, and aspirations will support you to understand other people's cultural context. You will consider key topics that will strengthen your work with children and families that have a culture that is different to your own. This will support you to practice in a culturally safe way. And I should say that this is really built from ideas of cultural safety, building on ideas of cultural competence, and there's details of that included at the beginning of the toolkit. So all of these kind of terms like cultural safety and cultural competence are framed and explained at the beginning. So this is an idea of what we think these question cards will look like. So we've just kind of we have a mock up here, but we would like them to be single cards. The idea that you can, use them with others, use them yourself. Maybe if you only want to take a few out with you, maybe to visit just for your own personal thoughts. That they're easy to take and they're not a big kind of clunky booklet. So that's just to give you a bit of a vision about how this might look. And I'm just displaying on screen some questions that are again informed by this idea of cultural safety. So what I'm going to do is I'll leave them on screen just for a few minutes. And I'm just really interested to know, firstly, if you kind of what your first initial thoughts are about these kinds of questions. Um, would they be helpful prompts for you to consider if you are working with a family from a culture that's different from your own, but specifically we have in mind Black or African diaspora families? Would they be helpful? Would you rephrase anything? Do you think there's something missing? So I'll just leave these for a couple of moments for you to have a look at, and then I'll stop sharing my screen just so that I can see people, and I'll copy and paste them into the chat just so you have them there for your reference. I'll just give you a few minutes just now to have a look and make any notes.